Manfred, and welcome to this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us once again.
Thank you, Rahul. It's pleasure is all mine. I'm looking forward to this continued conversation.
Thank you. And this is the first conversation for this year among us. The last one that we did was latter part of the 2021. And I'm glad that we are starting the year by going deeper into what we had last touched upon, which was just to refresh. What we talked last about was um, how can anyone develop themselves to be a leader, and in a very structured and clear manner, you were able to distill it in form of 10 keys to successful leadership.
Yes.
So that was very helpful. And what I thought was that in this particular conversation, we could actually pick a few of those keys and go a little bit more into the detail of what is it, why is that particular aspect important, and how can anyone develop a system or habits to develop themselves around that particular key.
Yes. Let's go for it. I think it's an interesting subject, and look, there's. I'm pointing out these 10 key features. You can certainly add another 10 if you want. There's all kinds of uh, things that are important for a leader, but I think these are really fundamental.
Absolutely. So then let's go for it. I'll stick to those 10 for the purpose of this particular conversation because I'm personally very curious about a few of them. There have been areas where I myself realized that I need to do more, but I always felt limited in my interventions on how to actually think about in a practical way and execute better on those. So
Hmm.
without further ado, let me start with the first one, which we had covered in our last session. So one of the keys to successful leadership you had mentioned about was authentic executive presence. You did mention what it is about, but just to refresh our memories, I want to hear from you. How do you define what authentic executive presence is?
Well, I mean, we know. I assume we know what authentic means. Is really being yourself and being ideally your best self as a leader. And why is authentic such a key word or key adjective in defining a leadership presence? Well, think about it that way. Leaders need to influence, leaders need to engage, no matter what level of leadership you are in. And when you are not authentic in the way you are engaging, you are not able to build trust. And leadership without trust is, in essence, not sustainable, and it's not. You won't be able to engage people for a common goal and for the greater good of the organization and their own targets and goals and aspirations. So that's where authenticity is so utterly important.
Understood. And you touched upon, I think, two key aspects. One is importance of building trust, and in relation to building trust, being authentic. So I think that clarifies why is it important. If I were to think of it further, uh, are there uh, are there any client situations you have been a part of, or in your own professional journey, where you saw this live, where someone either struggled to reach the next level because of lack of authentic executive presence, or someone significantly benefited by developing a stronger authentic executive presence?
Yeah, well, sure, absolutely. It happens all the time. Uh, it's very important for a leader to create leadership presence. It's the presence when you enter the room. It's the presence when you are in front of people, that without having to say a word of your title or your function, it's people feel you are the one in the room. You're the one that takes care and takes charge. And to create that environment, authenticity and trust is certainly incredibly important. And if you think about it, without trust, it is hard to build relationship. Leading is very much relationship based, and that can be individually relationships, but also relationships with a group, with a team, with an organization. If you can't be trusted, or if you don't exude that trustful vibes, people won't follow you. At least if they have choices, they may not make the choice. And that is so critical in a leadership environment, particularly when you think about now remote and distributed work environments. There it is absolutely crucial. You can't lead effectively unless you have authentic, trustful relationships with people, which is your leadership presence. I had a client. She was a brilliant young lady in her mid to late 30s. Really very, very smart, well educated, very well respected, but her leadership presence was not effective, and it was fascinating. She, in essence, she suffered from the imposter syndrome. She didn't think she belonged in that leadership position. So she was always a little bit apologetic about everything that she mentioned, that she brought forward, that she requested for or suggested, and that background of uncertainty and insecurity, I call it that way now because that's what we found out. It turned out to be this imposter syndrome. It completely held her back. So what we did is with questions and with conversations to create more of a self-understanding that actually I do belong. I know things, I understand things, and people relate to me, and to create a more certain presence and being clear and authentic about it when she said something, without having to think, well, should I say this or should I not? Maybe how will people react to it? How will people think about it? You can't change that. You can't really influence that. If you need to be your best self, as I call it. That's what leadership is all about. And then support people. Effective leaders are the strongest supporters of their team, of their people. And when you do this in an authentic and honest and way that people can relate to, that's where you create that presence. And
Thank you, Manfred. I think
there are plenty of reasons why somebody is lacking that leadership presence. Yeah, I just used one, but there are
one.
a
Yeah, I was just about to
multitude
say
of facets.
Yeah,
But that is
but thank you
that
for
is the
sharing that
coaching
example.
work as well, and the relationship with the client to find out what is the root cause.
Hmm.
How does my presence that I exude not come across the way I want it to be seen, or it needs to be seen, and what are then the root causes that this happens? That is a process of uh, exploration and finding yourself and self-awareness to get to those points and then work with those issues and eliminate them and change them and in essence make yourself whole.
And in your experience, what's the starting point of this process? This example that you shared, was it the awareness on her part that I'm not coming across the way I should? And that awareness then led to identifying the root cause, um, being the imposter syndrome? Or in other situations, you have found it to be different? Um, um, in terms of what the starting point is. Is it the awareness on the individual part? Like if I have to uh, create that awareness, uh, what would be the typical starting point for me?
Well, you really need to find the starting point and you need to find it together. The thing is, something is not working the way, or that the results are not the way that they are desired. And the individual recognizes that, or the supervisor recognizes that. So that is the starting point. We don't get the results and we don't understand why. Because the person, as I said, a very smart, very well educated, greatly experienced, bright and great lady, and it still didn't really hit kind of on all five cylinders. So
I love it. I think you bring us back every time we have this conversation. You bring it back to that keyword results, and I'm always able to link it to the way you define leadership also in that way, working through people to get results. So in this case as well, it's about results. The starting point
results
is
as a leader
results.
in this case, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So in this case also, it's very important that this is not something which is more of a theoretical construct that one should create executive presence to become a good leader, but it is very practical, and the starting point is about if you are not getting results, then something is missing. It could be the executive presence. So I get that clarity in terms of what the starting point is.
And look, I said this before, leadership is not about the leader, it's all about those being led. And so that is then where the results need to fall into place. And I, from my own learning and my own background, uh, I I had a mentor that helped me better understand that particular issue, that it's not about the leader, it's about those being led. And I have uh, I don't know if I have developed that or if I have thought about it, or if I stole it, I can't remember anymore. But I have this metaphor, as a leader, I am the moon and my team are bright stars in the firmament. I get the light from those stars. So if I make my team members shine brightly, meaning perform extraordinary, uh, help them to become the best they can be, I get enough light to shine because I get from everyone the light. So
What a beautiful metaphor.
I don't need my own light. My light is the reflection of my team's uh, brightness.
Lovely. I love that metaphor. From
And
where
if we
you got it,
start
it's a beautiful
understanding
metaphor.
that as leaders and recognizing that, it will change our whole attitude, and it will change our presence. And if we are then authentic about it and recognize that, we can act differently.
I think this reminds me of the concept of servant leadership. I think it became popular since 1970s, but similar construct. If I were to, create that analogy, that uh, if I think that I'm a servant first to the people that I'm leading, then my purpose is to serve. And if I get that right, if I'm able to first recognize that that is the purpose, then my effectiveness would be many times more than if I take the opposite view that I am leading and people are following.
See, if you have 10 people on your team and they all need to serve you, then that means the output is limited by your own capacity.
Yeah.
At the same time, if you can enhance the 10 people to their best performance, you're creating 10 times.
Yeah. Which is where if I'm serving them, if that is what my purpose is, then that means that I'm serving to make them reach their potential. And like you said, it would create a 10 times higher output compared to the other way around.
Jan Carlson, I think it was in 1979 or 1980, he wrote a book as well. But he was the CEO of then almost going under SAS Air, the company, the airline, Scandinavian Airline Systems, SAS. And they were really on the brink when they hired Jan Carlson. And he turned the pyramid upside down. He said, those people that deal with the customers one way or another, agents, aircraft personnel, people that handle baggage, people in the flight cabin serving customers, those are the ones that create those moments of truth. And his book is also called Moments of Truth. So the rest of the organization is supposed to support them, serve them, to be the best they can be, because they create the moments of truth with customers. So he put himself at the bottom. He said, I need to serve my team so that my team can serve the next layer, and then the next, to those that are ultimately serving the customer and interacting with the customer and making them as independent as possible and knowledgeable as possible to make decisions on the spot with customers without having to go 3 layers back and ask for permission and so on. It's very fascinating, and it turned the airline within 3 years. It turned the airline into the most successful business airline at that time in the world. And he was the one that actually invented business class, because he said it is ludicrous that just because you are a business traveler and you have to you can't book 6 weeks ahead, you're paying for a seat $1,000, and adjacent to you at the same row is somebody that paid $150. It doesn't make sense. So he created that business class,
Wow.
which has become very successful in the industry and is successful till today.
And behind that was such a powerful lens to look at the organization, the inverted pyramid, right? And again, a great example in a way that it created results. It's not just a theoretical construct that uh, put the people at who are dealing with the customers at the front. It's not just a construct. It led to an innovation on the product side and getting business results for not only that organization but for an entire industry.
It's rethinking leadership. It's rethinking the position of leading as not so much as a position, but as a clear function of service.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so much then from that simple key that we started talking about, which is authentic executive presence. So I'm curious, on that note, Manfred, there seems to be multiple reasons why someone is not able to create that presence. You gave one example, which is imposter syndrome. What are some of the other examples which could be hindering an individual from uh, having the authentic executive presence?
Well, not recognizing how you get across, how you interact, for example, how you communicate, not understanding the the simple things that drive people, recognizing that they have what are the aspirations of individuals that you have on your team. There are a multitude of reasons, and that's something that a coaching relationship, this coaching collaboration will find out. That's as a coach, that's one of my tasks, to ask the right questions, to recognize things and to read between the lines and ask the right questions, so to help my coachee to uncover and discover things that they never have thought about, even about themselves. You know, leadership, 50% of effective leadership is self-leadership. I
Mm-hmm.
stated that before, and I'm repetitive with this. I understand that, but you have to learn to lead yourself effectively, and if you do that, you will become also more authentic in the way you get across.
Understood. And one of the ways in which, and probably one of the more powerful ways in which anyone can work on this is having a coach. Um, Through this coach and coachee interaction, it becomes much more simpler for anyone to first create that awareness that what is hindering them in creating the results. And if uh, presence is one of the reasons, and like you said, that leadership is 50% self leadership, then this uh, could be a reason, your presence coming in the way of you being more effective as a leader, and that resulting in not you is in you not being able to achieve the results. So I think if where I'm going with this is that someone witnessing that I'm not able to produce the results that I should have could lead to uh, this awareness first, that there is something which I am missing, something on my part which I'm missing out as a leader, because leadership is 50% self leadership, which could lead to uh, someone realizing that I need a partner, a coach, for me to create that better awareness that where exactly am I lacking out. And hence, one way, one intervention to think of is to have a coach.
Yeah, and I think it's important to make that disclaimer. I don't want to sound here is the only way you become an effective leader is with a coach. You you don't need a coach. You can become the most effective leader that can be on your own. You can read the right books, and you can find the right input, and all of these things. Um, but what I can guarantee you, if you work with a coach, and you as an individual or anybody out there, if you utilize the service of a coach and seek that collaboration, you will enhance the speed and the quality of your development. You can get there yourself, but it will take you, instead of 2 years or 1 year or half a year. It will take you 5, 10, or 15 years, or maybe until the end of your life. So it's that difference that you can make. It's not that you couldn't do it without a coach, but it will significantly increase your speed of progress and your quality of progress.
And I'll add a third element, Manfred. I think I totally agree with you. Firstly, so I think speed, quality of development, and third is, I would say, the journey itself becomes very stressful because uh, when I work with leaders, when I work with CXOs, they already have a lot on their plate. I have been myself in similar situation in the past. There is so much to do that the stress levels are anyway high, and doing another thing on own not only takes longer, not only the quality might not be as good as what I want, but also the journey becomes even more stressful because on top of getting my deliverables out, I have one more thing on my plate. Versus having someone to speak to and interact, having someone whose agenda is nothing but my development, makes that journey also much less stressful. So that's the third element, I would say, that why someone might benefit from a coach, not only in terms of speed and quality, but also the journey will become a bit more pleasant.
I give you a fourth one. It may be more cost effective. And
More cost
what I
effective.
mean by that, I had a conversation. It was sometime. It was 2 years ago, with the president of a company, and he wanted me to. He was inquiring for me to work with one of his on his team, on his executive team, and he said, well, my rate is quite substantial. And so I challenged him. I said, okay, what type of decisions is she make? That was his report. And he said, well, she's making all kinds of operational decisions for the company, strategic decisions. I said, what's the average value of these decisions? And so he said, well, it can be. Well, she doesn't deal with the small stuff, but it can be $1 million to 20 million. And I said, okay. So what if she makes one more good decision based on the work that we do? Just one more good decision, and it's one of the low price, the $1 million decisions. And
Such a powerful way to think
he
of
looked
it.
at me and he said, I think I get the point.
It's a powerful one, but not an easy one. I think some of the things
No.
where the decisions like this, engaging a coach, when people are not able to do a direct correlation, I've found myself also in a similar situation, having these kind of conversations where uh, the you mentioned cost effective. I would flip it around and say that it's an investment that you make for much higher return. So to me, the ROI is so much high when you look at it. In this example, it's a $1 million return that you're getting on an investment which is much lesser.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
on the topic of executive presence, Manfred, I'll move on further. And the other thought that I was having was, if someone were to get started on it, then like you said, there are multiple ways to go around it. One is someone would have a coach, but often, including myself, the journey starts by first self-discovery, to know a little bit more about where exactly is the problem and what can I do. And I've found books to be a good way, like you also said, that you can read to get started. So I think in that initial journey, when you were mentioning, one thing that was coming to my mind is I had some time back read the book Presence by the Harvard professor Amy Cuddy. And Amy talks about situations in which presence is presence is important. For example, when you are in an interview, when you are giving a presentation, when you are in front of a board. So these are situations where I think very similar to how you were mentioning about executive presence.